What's up, guys? Time to learn some economics. I hope you're having a good day so far. In this lecture, we are going to talk about our final graph. So get excited. It's a good day. All right. The foreign exchange market is the final graph that we will learn in this class, and then you guys are done with learning new graphs. All right. So we're going to talk about the importance of real exchange rates and their role in the current account. A little bit, mostly just focus on exchange rates for today. So currencies are traded in the foreign exchange market. So for that definition there, all right, I know that box is really large and I'm not quite sure why. I guess you can actually go ahead and write all this stuff in there. That's why it's in there. Sorry, I forgot about that. So currencies are traded in the foreign exchange market. What that foreign exchange market means is basically that it's where people buy and sell different currencies. All right. So the prices at which currencies are traded are known as the exchange rates. Go ahead and put that as the equilibrium exchange rate. It's where the supply and the demand for a certain currency exists. We're going to look at that here in a minute. When a currency becomes more valuable in terms of other currencies, it appreciates. When a currency becomes less valuable in terms of other currencies, it depreciates. Here's an example from April 3rd, 2014 at 12:50 a.m. $1 US would buy you 103.97 yen and 72 euro cent. Today, that's much higher. $1 buys you closer to 85, 86 euro cent. And then you can see 1 yen it could be exchanged or bought for so-and-so, right, and so-and-so down there. So it makes sense. And then we make it really complicated here. Just remember, economics is common sense made complicated. The equilibrium exchange rate is the exchange rate at which the quantity of a currency demanded in the foreign exchange market is equal to the quantity supplied. It's basically going to be the price for buying a currency. Now, in a hypothetical example, all right, actually, just skip over this. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. Now, there is such a thing as a real exchange rate, or exchange rates that are adjusted for international differences in aggregate price levels. So, for example, right, if we have the price level for the United States divided by the price level in Mexico times the exchange rate, we can actually adjust that for inflation. You won't really see problems asking you to calculate this in my class on the AP exam, but it is an important concept to understand. So just know that if a country is experiencing high inflation, right, like let's say the current exchange rate in Mexico was $1 for 18 pesos, and Mexico underwent super high inflation. And so $1, let's say they had 100% inflation. So now your dollar in Mexico would buy you 36 pesos. Well, does it really buy you any more stuff in Mexico? Not really, because all the prices for everything else in Mexico went up as well. So the real exchange rate just accounts for that increase in the inflation rate there in Mexico. Now, real versus nominal exchange rates, as you can see in certain cases, the nominal exchange rate for the peso compared to the US dollar has gone up starting in 1994 when we started doing NAFTA, but that's mostly because of inflation in Mexico. Now, purchasing power parity between two countries' currencies is the nominal exchange rate at which a given basket of goods and services would cost the same amount in each country. We're going to see a real-life example of that coming up here in a minute, where there's an index called the Big Mac Index, because McDonald's is a large multinational corporation. We can see how different currencies will buy you more or less stuff depending on where you're at around the world. Okay, so flipping it over to the back. All right, the foreign exchange graph. We're going to go over the rules here in a minute as we're kind of drawing this here, so just kind of follow along with me. So let's compare. Let's say we're going to graph the market between US dollars and euros. All right, we're just going to use that as our first example. So you're always going to draw two graphs side by side right here. Now, I'm going to be toggling back and forth between drawing the graphs and going over the 4 rules for Forex here, all right, because as I write them out, it'll help us to draw those graphs there, Okay, so the first rule is bottom, bottom. Alright, and that's a labeling. That's going to help you with your labeling of your graphs correctly. Alright, so if we're comparing US dollars to euros here, alright, we are going to put on our y-axis, right? Remember, on a supply and demand graph, okay, that's going to be our price. So we're trying to look at the price for something. So to help you keep your labeling straight on this, your US dollar per euro, alright, let's say that, because we're comparing those two here, the currency that's on the bottom here is going to go on the bottom on the x-axis here. So we're going to put quantity of euros right there. That's also going to be the supply of the euro, and that's a sign for the euro. I just didn't feel like writing euro out again. And we've got our demand for the euro right there. And we got our equilibrium point here. So we've got our quantity 1 and our exchange rate 1 right there. Alright, so this graph here is the graph for euros. Alright, and we know that because of our labeling points, bottom, bottom. The next rule for Forex that we need to know is going to be, we're going to, actually the rest of this we can go ahead and figure out over here. So sorry about that. We'll come back to the rest of the rules there when we're talking about doing problems. So for this graph over here, because this is the graph for the euros, now we're going to do the graph for the US dollars. So we're going to do right here, euro over US dollar. This is going to be our supply of the dollar, demand for the dollar, new quantity of US dollars there. And our exchange rate there. So bottom, bottom tells us which graph it is we're looking at. Now, let me go through the rest of the rules, and as we go through it, I'll flash back over to the graphs there. So the next rule that you need to know for foreign exchange graphs, and when you see questions for them in general, is that the first part of the question is you're going to determine which currency the question is asking about. Alright, and that's going to help you with just knowing which graph they're going to grade. Okay, so if we flip back over here, let's say that the question was what happens in the foreign exchange market when, in the foreign exchange market for US dollar when, actually, let me write this in a different color so that way we can separate it out. It's a bright idea. Alright, so the question will be in red. What happens to the US dollar when the demand for US manufactured cars increases in Europe? Alright, so if that's our problem, what happens to the US dollar when demand for US manufacturing cars in Europe increases? There's going to be a couple things that we need to think about as we're working through this problem. So in this case, we're determining which currency the question is asking about. Alright, well, we know right here that it's US dollars. Okay, and it'll always be that explicit for you. Alright, the third rule for Forex is going to be shifting the opposite curve in the same direction for both graphs. All right, now let's flip back up here. These are going to be that's going to be to help you with your shifting. All right, so let's flip back up here real quick. I'm going to keep doing the answers to this problem in red. So let's say you're a European, right? You're living your best life over in Italy, and you just really want to have an American car. All right, so you go and you want to purchase it. Well, think about it. If you want to buy something that's made in the United States, you are going to need to first buy American dollars. Well, you can't just walk up to the counter and go to a bank and say, hey, I'd like some American dollars. You're going to need to supply your currency in order to get that. Does that make sense? Hopefully you're shaking your head yes. If not, well, you can just ask me during the next class and I'll help you out there. Alright, so we have a new quantity of euros that are available, because remember, Europeans are doing that to buy American cars. We have a new exchange rate here. Because they are supplying, they're thus demanding opposite curve, right? Supply curve here, demand curve here. They are demanding US dollars, all right, in exchange for their euros. So the exchange rate here would increase, which brings us, right, because now that they have American dollars, now they can buy those American cars, get them shipped over to the United States and or over to Europe and drive around tiny roads in Europe on big American cars. All right. Now, the fourth rule for Forex, right, is going to be one currency appreciates and one currency depreciates. Alright, so when we come back up here, we can look at the exchange rates, and we can say, yes, the euro decreased in value, it depreciated, and the US dollar appreciated because the exchange rate went up for the dollar. Alright, we're actually going to leave it off with that for today. If you have any questions, write them down, bring them to class. We'll talk about this more in detail when you come to class tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.